Hello, and thank you for joining me for the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus video. On November 8th at 6:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have a full moon partial lunar eclipse in Taurus at 16 degrees, 1 minute. A lunar eclipse happens when the Earth comes right in between the sun and the moon on a full moon. This causes the Earth to throw a shadow onto the moon and sometimes making it look red. Now, you may not be on a part of the planet where you can actually see the eclipse at 6:02 a.m., but it is happening nevertheless, and it may or may not be turning the moon red. This Taurus eclipse will most likely threaten our emotional security blanket. This could affect the banking industry and people's bank accounts in general. It could also affect you in terms of purchasing items, paying off debt, changing your method of handling your money or investments, budgeting, or building security. In addition, Taurian items like the earth, crops, sustainability, recycling, farming, and the food industry could also be affected. Something related to the earth, income, or your own value could be eclipsed out of or eclipsed into your life. So the November full moon is in Taurus. Taurus is feminine, it's ruled by the earth, it's a fixed sign, and it's ruled by the planet Venus. What does it mean to have the moon in Taurus? Well, most people with moon in Taurus are stubborn, very loyal, they're in touch with nature, and they are lovers of beauty. When the moon is in Taurus for the rest of us, we become more in touch with our body. We enjoy beautiful and natural things. We want to be comfortable. We may slow down to relax a bit. We enjoy good food, and we display loyalty and patience. The full moon has a special power. It is the culmination or the peak of energy in the month. It's full of yin and yang energy, yin from the moon and yang from the sun, because they are standing directly across from one another in the sky. The full moon energy helps you and forces you actually to deal with unresolved issues. This is because the sun will shine a light on the darkness and expose dark things in your personality or psyche that can be resolved. The full moon is a very good time to work on letting go of negative patterns and toxic thoughts, and especially to release the wasted emotions of guilt, fear, jealousy, and disappointment. Throw in the lunar eclipse energy. Eclipse energy brings about unexpected changes. It can bring endings, not necessarily of your choosing. The eclipse will surely help you let go of something, especially if you have points in your chart that are sensitive to the degrees of the eclipse. You will be able to release emotions that do not serve you anymore. And the degree of the eclipse is 16 degrees, 1 minute of Taurus. So anywhere in your chart where you have 16 degrees of Taurus will be affected. But it will also be affected if you have things at a few degrees before, let's say 13 degrees to 19 degrees of any of the fixed signs, any of the earth signs, then this eclipse will affect you a great deal. Now let's move on to the retrograde planets affecting the lunar eclipse. During this lunar eclipse, we will have Mars retrograde in Gemini, Jupiter retrograde in Pisces, Neptune retrograde in Pisces, Uranus retrograde in Taurus, Chiron retrograde in Aries. In addition, the north and south nodes go in and out of retrograde for the entire month. The nodes go direct, which is unusual for them, on November 5th, then retrograde again on the 8th, the eclipse date. They go direct again on the 17th and retrograde on the 23rd, the date of the new moon. This could result in a tumultuous month where many people change their ideas about their own mission or legacy in life and change their direction as to what they want to achieve. Loyalties and goals will change, not only due to the eclipse, but also due to the variability of the direction of the nodes. The North Node influences what direction we are going in life, which is informed by the South Node, which is where we are coming from and what we are comfortable with. By having all of this challenged or upended, we may find a lot of people confused by or in the process of completely changing what it is they want out of life. Since this eclipse happens on the exact day of our midterm elections here in the United States, we will see that issues of the nation's security and mission are also challenged. We can hope that the factions of American politics who challenge the status quo in terms of having peaceful transitions of power will be eclipsed. But there is also the possibility that the opposite may happen. We'll look at the United States chart later in this video. Now we're going to look at the main planetary influences over the eclipse. All right, now we're going to look at the chart of the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus. And I just want to point out the sun here in Scorpio conjunct Mercury and Venus, which are both personal planets and which usually have a beneficial impact on whatever they touch. Right across the sky or in opposition to the moon, which is conjunct the North Node and Uranus. So the moon opposition the sun is the very definition of a full moon, and having the node conjunct the moon is what makes it a lunar eclipse. Okay. I also want to point out that the sun and the moon and their accompanying planets are both to a 90-degree angle at Saturn in Aquarius down here. And that is not usually a positive aspect. That's a difficult aspect. Saturn in Aquarius will involve the government. It will involve rules and authority, a great deal of authority. So that's going to be very interesting. And we also have the sun in sextile. That means it's 2 signs away from Pluto. And the moon is 4 signs away from Pluto, which is a trine, which is a very, very beneficial aspect. And Saturn in Aquarius is also in a very wide trine to Mars up here, retrograde in Gemini. So it makes a lot more sense to look at a whole chart like this in the context of a person or another entity like the United States. I mean, we could impose the full moon chart over your personal natal chart, or we could impose it over a chart, say, of the United States. And that's what I'm going to do now. So we're going to go to this chart of the United States. And I'd like to point out that the planets in blue in this inner ring are the natal planets of the United States. And the planets in red in this outer ring are the planets of the eclipse. Of course, here's the moon conjunct Uranus in the node, right across the sky from the sun conjunct Mercury and Venus, and all of that squaring Saturn, which is here in Aquarius, next to Pluto and Capricorn, and the wide trine from Saturn to Mars retrograde in Gemini. So those are the major players of the eclipse. So this eclipse has power and unpredictability. To me, there are a lot of hallmarks of a military conflict, which is something we have seen before with the US chart when Neptune, Mars, and Saturn are involved. In this case, we also have Pluto involved. Here is Pluto. This is the transiting Pluto, and in the blue, we see the natal Pluto. So you can see that Pluto is right on top of its natal position here during this eclipse. And we also have, in the US here chart, we have Mars transiting Mars, which is retrograde in Gemini, just past the natal Mars, also in Gemini. And that natal Mars was square Neptune at the time of our country's inception. And right now we have Neptune in an opposition to itself, also causing a square with the transiting planets. So we have double emphasis of Pluto, Neptune, and Mars in this lunar eclipse, which is really double trouble here. Now, most countries have an element like the Mars-Neptune square in their charts because most modern countries have been created out of resolutions to either bloody conflicts or disputes about borders or governmental rule. So that part is pretty common. But what is not common is that we are in the throes of our Pluto return and our Neptune opposition. So here's the Pluto return, and here's transiting Neptune directly across from our natal Neptune in this chart. Mars square our natal Neptune in our natal chart is reflective of the conflicts and disputes between our fledgling country and Great Britain, which was happening when our country was formed. Today, we not only have a repeat of this with transiting Mars, which again is retrograde in Gemini, meaning it is bringing something forward from the past, squaring the transiting Neptune in Pisces. When we couple this with the Neptune opposition to our natal Neptune in Virgo, you have lit the match to a powder keg. Now, add the full moon partial lunar eclipse, which is in conjunction with Uranus, the chaos bringer, and we don't know what will happen, but it's going to be hard to predict, but it's probably not going to be pretty. Uranus conjunct the moon brings a volatility that will surely influence our stock markets, which is 5th house, and our jobs, which is 6th house overall. And this may play out over the course of the 2 weeks leading up to and away from the full moon. As Saturn in Aquarius squares the overall eclipse configuration, bringing restrictions and governmental involvement, trying to stabilize the situation. But we still have the Mars-Neptune T-square that will not be resolved so easily. Mars retrograde in Gemini means there will be frustrated diplomatic gestures and that we will inch closer and closer to an actual all-out conflict. Now, could this be the conflict between Russia and Ukraine? We'll have to wait and see. The biggest blessing here is that I can safely say it will not be nuclear, because Pluto is sextile the sun and trining the moon, and the influence from Pluto is going to aid our diplomats and governmental officials. What it might do, that Pluto influence might allow us to be super, super secretive in our dealings with NATO and any of the powers that are trying to help Ukraine. That Pluto cloak of secrecy might protect us in our dealings with these very, very, very sensitive diplomatic operations. So that being said, which diplomats and government officials will prevail? It's a good question. Another gift here is that transiting Saturn is sitting on our natal moon. So our involvement in Ukraine will be minimal, and our diplomatic efforts will be strong. So Saturn will not allow us to do anything overt in during the time of this eclipse, which is really good. So we may be drawn into the conflict, but we will keep things as diplomatic as possible. We won't break any treaties, and we will not make any outright declarations except in support of others. Now, our own domestic issues will be much more pressing at the time of the eclipse. There could be outbreaks of violence, possibly due to the involvement of Mars and Neptune, and the fact that emotions will be high at the time of the election. With Pluto and Saturn's involvement with the actual sun and moon, we may find there is a power and buildup of need for action, which may result in people taking to the streets or riots or worse. Now, I believe that elections are governed by the fifth house. With the planet Uranus there with the moon, although they are leaving that house, it's really hard to predict what the outcome of the election is going to be. The 10th house is usually the party in power. And normally the Saturn is in our 10th house, and normally Saturn in Libra keeps things pretty calm. But right now, with the eclipse and everything going on, it's very hard to say. It's just hard to say. So the transiting Saturn is at 18. Oh gosh, it's just squaring this whole mess. It's such a mess. 14. So really, transiting Saturn is trining the Saturn in the 10th house of the United States. So I don't think that there will be a whole heck of a lot of shenanigans when it comes to the actual voting and all of that stuff. So I'm thinking that Pallas Athena being conjunct our natal Mercury and sitting there on election day will mean that counting for the election can happen very quickly and very accurately, and that with Saturn trining our natal or the transiting Saturn trining our natal Saturn, and Juno there. Juno is the asteroid that rules marriage and cooperation and contracts. So I'm thinking that people will uphold the law. That's a contract, and Saturn represents laws as well. So I'm thinking that with that boost from the transiting Saturn to the natal Saturn, that will be very beneficial as well. So, you know, people are going to do what they're going to do, but I think all in all, it's going to be a very clean election, quickly counted. People will stay in line. I don't see that part happening, but there's going to be a wild card, you know, because you will have Uranus and the moon and this whole eclipse thing taking place on that day. So there's a lot that's going on. All right, let's move on and let's see what the eclipse has in store for you. Aries. This will affect Aries rising, and it will affect your 2nd, 8th, 10th, and 11th house. There may be some drama surrounding your finances. So during the week leading up to the eclipse, you must focus calmly on solutions. Be sure to reinforce your own feelings of self-worth, and do not go down a rabbit hole of pity or worse, shame about your inability to earn a living or that you're a bad person. The balance needed here is to remind yourself what you have been doing financially for yourself and others. Our income is not always representative of our whole self-worth. If you feel at the mercy of your paycheck, then it may be time to get an upgrade in this area. Break free of the false idea that you are only as valuable as your paycheck. Work on any issues you have surrounding transactions or give and take. Now is the time to plan your exit strategy of being caught in this hamster wheel. You are the master of your destiny, and that includes controlling your income. You deserve abundance, and in this universe, there is plenty to go around. Taurus, Taurus rising. This is going to be a difficult eclipse and very challenging for you. It's going to affect your first, seventh, ninth, and 10th houses. You will feel this eclipse very personally. Issues about your personal appearance may be affecting your everyday life in ways in which you were not aware. Take care of yourself now and learn to say yes when someone offers to help you. You will be very emotional during this cycle, and you may feel things keenly from 2 weeks before and after the full moon. Expect to turn the corner in one way or another in your personal or professional life. Strive to find balance between your needs and those around you who are important to you. Gemini rising. This will affect Gemini, your 12th house, 6th, 8th, and 9th. You have been going strong for quite some time now, Gemini, and this eclipse and full moon is going to give you the opportunity to slow down and smell the roses. Now is the time to relax, meditate, take a bath, walk in the woods, and generally connect with your inner self. You may have to look at your own self-sabotaging behavior in the meantime, which will make you uncomfortable, but it really is in your best interest. We all have parts of ourselves that either hold us back or just downright cause us to fail, and an eclipse in our 12th house is the universe's way of calling it to our attention so that we can let it go. If you can stand to look in the spiritual, psychological mirror, Gemini, you can free yourself of some negative behavior or fear and step back out into the world with newfound confidence and serenity. Cancer, Cancer rising. For Cancer, the full moon eclipse will focus your feelings, which can be intense, Cancer, even for you, on friendships and unfulfilled dreams. First, the friendships. This month and the 2 weeks leading up to the eclipse will be an excellent time for networking. You need to balance the urge to indulge yourself with the needs of others. Doing things for others is important now, not to mention good for that karmic piggy bank. Also, examine your friendships and see if there are some that are not working for you. If so, now would be the perfect time to release them with love to make room for new, more fulfilling ones. You of all signs need to be discerning about the people you surround yourself with. When it's time to call it quits, it's time, and you need to allow that. As far as unfulfilled dreams go, spend some time focusing on those unfulfilled dreams. We're not talking about finishing that crochet project you started last year. We are talking about the big things that you're planning that are perhaps partway done. So, those dreams, are they working for you? Are you getting what you're dreaming of? And if not, why do you think that is? It's a strange but true fact that sometimes we just know we're not going to get what we're paying lip service to wishing for. Sometimes we know on an intuitive level that something is never going to happen. Or perhaps we no longer want what we once desired. Let me say that again. Perhaps we no longer want what we once desired. The full moon in your 11th house is the ideal time to release anything like this into the ether. Leo rising. This will be a difficult eclipse for you and very challenging. It's going to affect the 4th, 10th, 6th, and 7th houses. Now is the time for you to step up and show yourself in your career. If you do not, the eclipse may do it for you, and you may not like the results. There may have been several minor annoyances at work lately, causing you to pull back and keep to yourself, but your coworkers need you to step up to the plate and deliver. This could also be the time of a major project coming to an end or climax, and you cannot afford to let it fail. Be sure to see it through. You may have changed a great deal since the inception of this work and may not care as much about it as you did before. Nevertheless, if you are involved, you will need to remind yourself of what you felt in the beginning and rally that emotion now. The universe is going to push you out into the spotlight, whether you want to go or not, so be ready with your acceptance speech. Virgo rising. For you, this eclipse will be harmonious and naturally flow with the energy. This will affect your ninth, third, fifth, and sixth houses. As a lifetime student, you may often worry about your ability to study, travel, and unravel the great questions of the universe. You may not get them all in this lifetime, but you try and worry about them all the same. During this eclipse, you will find yourself experiencing intense emotions about where you're going in life and your own life philosophies. Have they changed? Can you justify your choices? By the way, Virgo, absolutely no one is keeping score except for your Aunt Nellie, and she is not living your life, so forget about her. Sometimes worrying about doing something is just a delay tactic. When we are afraid, truly afraid, we cannot see how things can work out. But you are on the way to expanding your horizons, and this eclipse will help you do it. The eclipse will help you step up to a broader horizon and step over the border if you can allow it. This will require you to release fears about things being not meant for you, about all of this being your destiny instead of a punishment for which you must suffer. If this is your destiny, then take a leap and realize that throwing off the shackles of sweating the little things will allow you to achieve the big things. People at great distances could be thinking about you, or legal issues could be coming to a head during this eclipse, both of which will have a bearing on your current thoughts and fears about the future. This is your chance to accept the invitation from the universe to go out into the great unknown and claim your future. You may not be 100% ready. Who cares? You will never know unless you try. The growth you experience for trying will support and sustain your spiritual journey for years. Libra rising. This will affect your 8th, 2nd, 4th, and 5th houses. Libra, I'll bet you don't usually equate sex and money unless you're watching a movie. This eclipse will focus on your 8th house, where they are combined. Our joint resources and how we deal with them is a good indicator of how we deal with give and take in our world. If you give all the time, you forget how to receive, and that just messes things up. You are supposed to give and receive so that the universe knows how to stream an abundance of the things that you want directly to you. You must work on your financial picture in order to bring this back into balance. Paying down debts and personal bills are essential now because these are things we have already received, and paying for them is our way of giving. So rather than cursing the bills as they come in, you need to thank the vendor that already gave you their product or service, then bless them for trusting you to pay, and yourself for having the money to pay them. Money has always been twisted up with our feelings of self-worth, so it's a wicked little business here that demands attention and balance in order to work correctly. And when it comes to the boudoir, invest a little time and attention there as well. This, too, is wrapped up in your self-esteem stew, and so needs a little stirring now and again. Don't be stingy with this one. Give it an extra shake and a stir and see how much comes rushing back towards you. That's what I thought. Scorpio rising. Now for you, Scorpio, this eclipse will be difficult and challenging. It's going to affect your 1st, 7th, 3rd, and 4th houses. The focus now needs to be on your partner. So step aside and see if there is something that needs addressing with them. They are not your adversary, although during this eclipse you may find you also have to deal with them as well. This is where your partner really becomes a valuable asset in your quest to balance your life. And this helps you find the courage to stand up to any challengers to your professional life. Thinking about someone else also rounds out your emotional life, Scorpio, which very often you close off to others. Practice negotiating with your partner and be open to their ideas and needs. Having a strong partner is usually a ticket to success in all areas of life. You know this in your soul, which is why you chose that partner in the first place. Don't allow a relationship to dwindle and die because you are too intensely wrapped up in your own projects and goals. A healthy relationship will give you solace, strength, and good health when you need it most. Sagittarius rising. This will affect your 6th, 12th, 2nd, and 3rd houses. Is your job bugging you? Do you feel it is too small to hold your big dreams? Join the club, Sag. I think we all feel like that from time to time and year to year. There needs to be a balance between what you do every day and what you want to achieve and focus on in the greater scheme of things. Sag, this is the bread and butter of what you think about all the time. So what are you doing about it? To negate that the everyday is connected with the bigger picture is to keep oneself in an ever constant holding pattern of life. I'll start working on my novel when ... fill in the blank. I'll be happiest when ... fill in the blank comes into my life. If you keep waiting for another shoe to drop to fulfill your life's passion, you will die before it happens. Get rid of this way of thinking. It is a pattern that will thwart all your desires. Instead, begin allowing the universe to give you what you really want. Go ahead, Sag, ask for what you really want and begin to weave a connect between that and driving to your job at Dunkin' Donuts every day. It's that simple. Taking small steps to build your magical life pyramid is the only way it ever gets built. You have to begin somewhere, and you can't wait for the perfect conditions before you start building. This eclipse may actually push you out of your comfort nest in a rude awakening kind of way. So if you want to be the one in charge, do it now before the eclipse does it for you. Capricorn rising. This eclipse will be harmonious and very natural for you. This will affect your 5th, 11th, 1st, and 2nd houses. This eclipse will focus on children, your love life, and creative self-expression. Finding a balance between yourself, your friends, your children, and creative projects is the challenge now. You may find in the weeks leading up to the eclipse that you are extra emotional. I know, weird for you, Capricorn. And just where that emotion is directed can be an indicator of where you may be a bit off kilter. Creative expressions can help you to be better balanced emotionally. Giving you an outlet for all that emotion is always preferable to having outbursts a couple of times a year. Allow yourself social involvement and make sure you are engaging in activities that you truly enjoy. Don't just wait for your friends to plan something. Plan it yourself and finally take the whole lot of them horseback riding instead of that stupid sip and paint at the mall. You'll feel more yourself. And you will be avoiding a blow up at the holidays because Mabel always gets her way. This may be a time when issues surrounding a child come into focus and hopefully have positive resolutions. Or you could be ending a relationship now. Either or both could occur, and it would be the right time for them. That creative project could be completed now, and that would also be a big emotional climax for you. Whatever creative expressions come to the fore, it's right for you, Capricorn, and you should enjoy the time spent with loved ones. Forgive yourself for any time when you questioned your parenting skills or anyone who dragged you down or for taking life too seriously. Try to use this period to enjoy life and those around you. Aquarius rising. This is going to be a difficult and challenging eclipse for you, Aquarius, so get ready. It will affect your 4th, 10th, 12th, and 1st houses. In the weeks leading up to the eclipse, pay attention to your family and your own need for personal space and private time. Most likely, you've been working too hard and ignoring your family, so take the time now to balance your work and home life. You may find that your inner needs and goals are good indicators of what you really want to achieve in life, so working on this domestic and inner life will have a real benefit to your career. Seek out the members of your family who may have become distant and find out what's going on. Your home should be your sanctuary, but it cannot be if you do not want to go there. Forgive yourself if you've been ignoring the home fires and make a vow to repair and balance what's going on there. Usually, a few simple conversations are a good place to start. And Pisces. Pisces, the good news is for you, this eclipse will be harmonious and a very natural flow of energy for you. It will affect your 3rd, 9th, 11th, and 12th houses. It's all very well dreaming of the great escape, where you and possibly a loved one or two decide to take off to see the world, or at least the nearby countryside. But what about the details? This full moon reminds you that there's a lot of work to be done close to home, things that need taking care of, and items on your to-do list to be ticked off. It's also a celestial reminder that you seriously need to express yourself. If you haven't been honest about how you feel, now is the time to start to say your piece, whether you're talking face to face or on Facebook, emailing, tweeting, or whatever. Do you see yourself doing something else in life other than what you're doing now? Newsflash, Pisces, it isn't impossible. It's just that you have not acknowledged to yourself that it is possible. Let me repeat that. Newsflash, Pisces, it isn't impossible. It's just that you have not acknowledged to yourself that it is possible. The details of making this come into a reality may be daunting at first, but if you look at them one by one, they can begin to shape your new reality. Forgive yourself for any negative words you've spoken, and forgive your neighbors and siblings for any upsets you or they have caused. Let all that go and begin focusing on the big picture. This eclipse may drop some issues into your life that may cause you to see that your personal communications have power, the power to change your life if you allow it. So come on, allow it already. All right, those were the predictions for all 12 signs. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I really enjoy doing these, and eclipses are the most fun of all. They're challenging, but they are really, really fun. And I just want to say to all of my subscribers, thank you so much for being a subscriber. Thank you for liking and sharing as well. Thank you for tuning in for my other videos, the pick-a-cards, the meditations, the ET readings, the angel readings, and the Tarotscopes. They're just a gas. I just enjoy all of it. Have a great holiday season. Enjoy the eclipse. Please take my advice to heart, because this is going to be one heck of an eclipse. And I will see you all next time.